I'm going to do something here that I encourage a lot of other fans or analysts, whatever you consider me as, or YouTubers. I'm going to do something here that I would encourage other people to do. And that is sometimes you just have to admit that you're wrong. Okay. And to the degree that I'm wrong about Lamar Jackson is exaggerated by some, because if you go back to August, I said he was going to be a Pro Bowl. But obviously, Lamar Jackson has proven that he is far beyond a Pro Bowl quarterback. And I think, and I was going to make this waiting to see how he did against San Francisco, but seeing how he just annihilated what I think is a pretty good LA Rams defense, like a hot knife through butter, like babies and biscuits, that don't even make no sense. Seeing as he just dominated the NFL team like a Pee-wee football junior varsity squad on Monday Night Football, I think it's undeniable that Lamar Jackson is going to win the MVP this year. It doesn't matter if he has a terrible game against the San Francisco 49ers. It shouldn't. Unless he throws like for 10 picks, no touchdowns, and like negative yards passing, it doesn't matter what he does for the rest of the season, because what he has done up to this point is MVP worthy. And I was somebody who supported Russell Wilson in his bid for the MVP. But if you just look at the two, they don't compare. Russell Wilson hasn't, while he's played good, he hasn't been the game changer that Lamar has. He hasn't left the impact on the NFL that Lamar Jackson has. He hasn't given you the wow moments that Lamar Jackson has had. And while those aren't really tangible stats or tangible things you can just put on the field that some people will argue doesn't matter, we all know that the MVP is about narrative. The MVP is about highlights. The MVP is about who has the best image in most people's heads, and that's going to be Lamar Jackson. And, you know, I'm going to take a lot of heat, and people think I should delete the video, but I'm going to keep the video up where I said I don't think Lamar Jackson was the MVP, because at that time, I didn't think he was ready yet for the MVP conversation. I thought that it should wait until he did something against a proven team, and then he did against the Seahawks, and then he flipped the switch after that game and played really well. And he has played past, I think, almost everybody's expectations except for his own. And I think that is remarkable. I think that is great. And I think that is amazing. And I think that is why Lamar Jackson is going to become the second year quarterback back-to-back to win the MVP. And he deserves it. He does. And I'm not waiting to week 17 when it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable now. I think this is what's going to happen. Lamar, there's no argument you can make for him not to win the MVP. If you're saying he hasn't done enough through the air, let's talk about that. QBR is a measurement of a passer's efficiency. And unlike passer rating, which is just kind of a raw stat combined kind of number deal, QBR takes in situations, takes in the difficulty of a situation, takes in the strength of a throw. It takes in a lot of other things into account. And with QBR is measured out of 100. So the best QBR any quarterback can achieve is probably 99.9, right? That's the best game a quarterback can have according to QBR. Now, as far as QBR goes, 70, if you have a 70 QBR, that's really good. If you have an 80 QBR for a game, that's extremely good. And if you have a 90 QBR, that means it's probably one of your best games of the season. For an example, that's not somebody in the MVP race, Baker Mayfield had a 93.5, I think, QBR against the Dolphins. That was his best game so far this season. With that into account, do you know that Lamar Jackson has had 3 games where his QBR has been 99 point something? I think he's had a 99.5 game, a 99.7 game, and I think this week against the Rams, he had another 99.7 game as a passer. Now, it could be tempting to dismiss that against a team like the Dolphins or the Bengals because, they're not good. But a 99 QBR is a 99 QBR. And the fact that he did that against the LA Rams, who have Jalen Ramsey, who have Aaron Donald, who have a good defense, is very impressive. On the road, on Monday Night Football, there is no taking away from that accomplishment. And anybody who does is clearly not going to look at anything objective. They have something out against Lamar Jackson. What he did against the Los Angeles Rams won him the MVP. And it doesn't matter what Russell Wilson does for the rest of the year. It doesn't matter if Lamar Jackson cools down for the rest of the year. This is his MVP. Let's look at some of the total numbers, right? And these are total numbers, rushing and passing numbers added for a total combination. Okay, so Russell Wilson has 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 67% completion rate with a 74.1 QBR. Those are good numbers. Those are great numbers. It's not an MVP number. MVP seasons are like what Patrick Mahomes did last year. They're game-changing seasons where, and Patrick Mahomes last year had a 80-plus QBR for the entire season. That's a true MVP season. And if you look at the numbers, Lamar is the only player in the NFL having a true MVP season. 3,000 yards total, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 66% completion, 81.9 QBR for the season. Russell Wilson, I think his lowest QBR this season was 17. Lamar Jackson's was 53. So even at their worst and at their best, Lamar Jackson has a lower floor and a higher ceiling. Now, it could be argued, and I think somewhat fairly, that those efficiency numbers can be kind of overblown because it's easier for Lamar Jackson to be more efficient as a passer because of the offense that he's in and the fact that he runs the ball. But then that's dismissing the fact that he runs the ball so well. And then it's like taking that whole aspect out of the game. And the fact of the matter is he deserves to have it as easy as he can as a passer because he's even more dangerous as a runner. And that's not something you can take away from him in the MVP conversation. Talent, you're allowed to win the MVP because you're more talented than other people. That is a thing. And when it's in the concept of a passer, we don't normally have a problem acknowledging that. But whenever it's a guy who can run the ball, it's always something that we have an issue acknowledging, which is I never got that. But Lamar Jackson has become the MVP after this week. It's his MVP. It's not nobody really was the MVP. He won the MVP. No. This is his MVP. This is a season that is going to be talked about forever. Unless he has a better season next year, which is possible. But this is probably going to be a season that people are going to talk about forever, like the RG3 rookie year, like Michael Vick in 2003. There are seasons that just go down in history, like Patrick Mahomes last year. This is going to be something that we're going to talk about now. Is it going to win them a Super Bowl? That's a completely different question than the MVP conversation. Because again, how Lamar's playing football right now isn't necessarily going to be a direct indicator of how the Ravens, what kind of football they're going to be playing in December. It bodes well for them because they do run the ball. That's kind of game that goes well throughout all weathers. But I think one of the issues that the Ravens are going to have is if a team can get a lead on them, it drastically changes what they're able to do. And they haven't yet showed that they can play from behind if a team gets like a 14 or 17 point lead on them early. Now, to their credit, they've been beating teams by like 40 points on a regular basis, so they haven't had to prove that. But, in the playoffs, it's going to be a different story maybe, and some team might be able to jump up on them. And if they can come back from that is a huge question mark because, the Browns have not played the level of football that the Ravens have, but they were able to jump up on the Ravens early, and that was key to the Browns winning that game and getting Lamar Jackson a little bit uncomfortable. But again, that was September. And that was the last time they lost a game, by the way, was September. The Browns are their last loss. And, things could have drastically changed by September. We just don't know. It's just not proven. I don't think it's not possible, but it's definitely a question mark that they're going to have to answer eventually. I think it's going to be a good test against the 49ers. I think the 49ers have the potential to jump out on them and defend that game, that what they do very well. But, I was wrong about Lamar Jackson. I did not think he had this in him. I thought he had some of this in him. I thought he had flashes of this in him. I did not think he could do this long, this consistently, this well. And, I'm happy. And as a fan of football, not just as a fan of the Browns, but as a fan of the game, I'm happy to see him have success because I know that this will open up the doors for a lot of different style of quarterbacks out there, and it's going to make the game more interesting. It's going to really add a dynamic to the league that I'm excited about, that every other level of football has. I mean, what the Ravens are doing is very similar to what like you see high school teams do or college teams do when they know they have a dominant athlete that nobody can stop. They just put him at the quarterback position and let him rip. And, I think there is a lot to that ideal that can be used in the NFL. And I don't think Lamar Jackson's the only one. Obviously, he's having the most success, and he deserves to get credit for that success. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But I do think somebody like Kyler Murray, if the Cardinals decide to get rid of Cliff Kingsbury, which I think they should do, and get Greg Roman, I think Kyler Murray is another player who could have tremendous success in this kind of a system because he is a good passer, but he's also a very dynamic runner. There's a lot of guys who have not gotten a chance to do what they do well as a quarterback that could get their opportunity now because of Lamar Jackson. And in the long run, if I'm not looking at this through the lens of a Browns fan, that's good for football. So I'm happy to be wrong about Lamar Jackson. I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong about Lamar Jackson, and I'm excited to see what the future has in hold for not just Lamar, but for the other young quarterbacks in the NFL. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did Lamar convince you like he convinced me, and I think a lot of the world, that he is an MVP candidate? I know a lot of people are going to want to push back just because they're kind of tired of how much coverage that Lamar Jackson has. But I have to ask those people to also keep in mind that that's the same reason people are so eager to see Baker fail, is because the media covers them. And I don't think it's fair to trash a player because of what the media did to hype them up. I don't think that's fair to do either way. So if you don't like it being done to Baker Mayfield when people want to poop on him, even though he's a very good quarterback, just because he has commercials and that they're talking about him all the time, then we can't do the same to Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's fair. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think Lamar's the MVP? Do you think it's undeniable? Or do you think there is a strong case for Russell Wilson? And if so, leave it in the comment section down below. Keep it civil. Some may say, keep it clean down there, huh? That's a reference to somebody. But have fun down there in the comment section. But seriously, I'm looking forward to the civil conversations that are going to happen down there and the all caps rage by people who don't even watch this video past 3 minutes that are going to leave down in the comment section down below. But thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night. Hit that subscribe button.